question. Have you ever ran a launch where you did every single thing that the guru said? The emails, the timers, the countdown, those lovely little countdown timers, all of the extra bonuses. And it just felt so heavy, so unaligned, and just like crickets across the board.
I have run a launch. I have not performed a launch, but I have run a launch a couple of times. I can think of maybe one of my very first launch clients. She was trying to follow one of the big gurus' launch programs. And I want to say the person she bought the course was very thorough, but there were like 80 different modules to go through just to like follow the launch thing. And it was like a 4-phase process. And really it was just me and her implementing. And I think by the time we actually got to the event, like she was so burned out, she quit before it even started. And I've had other clients kind of, maybe they do a webinar where like that's not really their thing, or like they try to do a challenge and like they don't have the energy to show up 5 days in a row. So I think it's a very common thing that tends to happen in the online space, because I think those marketers are really good. They're like confident, like when they're like, I sold this $1 million, and if you launch this way, you can too. And it's like, that's really not the case.
You're like, and it's only $500. And you're like, well, wouldn't I spend that to make $1 billion kind of thing? Yeah. I think about this a lot in the sense that like when my clients came to me initially and the way that they were operating their launches were very much that structured quarterly launch, like webinar challenge type, like big event kind of thing. And then like send the emails and all of that. And now what they look like are so different. And we'll get into a little bit more about that, but like they're so vastly unique to them that it aligns with their energies. And I think that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be breaking down the three big like launch styles, kind of like the open closing cart, the rolling launches, the live launches, all of those things that you hear about on the interweb, and how to really choose one that fits your energy instead of trying to like stick yourself into a template of some sort. So
Yeah. So I really think kind of like the first thing to look out for when you are deciding on what your launch model is making sure, like being very, very cognizant of that one size does not fit all, and that you need to be choosing your launch style, model, strategy, runway, how you're going to show up based on your energy, but also your audience's energy. So everything that goes from like the timings, if you're going to do a webinar, like when is your ideal client available? Also the style of launch that you're most comfortable like for. And maybe it's something that you have to kind of experiment with. Like I have a lot of clients that do webinar launches, and some of them are amazing at it. But I've also been on some webinars that are just like really, really awkward, like, because they feel awkward, and that, awkwardness is not going to, and it's not that they're not good practitioners and they don't know what they're talking about. It's just like showing up live really isn't their thing. Speaking live really isn't their thing. So that's when another style of launch, maybe a pre-recorded something or a challenge or something that's like maybe even a little less formal than a webinar, could really work well for them.
yeah, and I want to put a caveat, or I guess not a caveat, but I want to like explain to people who are maybe trying to launch and mirror these larger like steal my launch strategies, is that these people's audiences are warm, they're engaged. Like these people are probably paying engagement specialists to be in the account and warming that audience up so that come open cart, the activity has been just like through the roof. That is not easily replicated in accounts that are new, or like businesses that are new, or audience that are smaller, or pivots for new programs. All of those things, like the launches that you see that are like millions in dollars, are replicated launches time and time and time again. Like Jess and I have talked about this in the past, where the most successful launches aren't that first one. It's typically like the third or the fourth one that's been reiterated and transformed based off of analytics and lessons and things along those ends. So what you're seeing is this like very calculated machine, and what you're going to buy is missing the components that that machine is running off of.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that I always say is business is a science and launching is an experiment. And you really have to treat it that way because I've seen a lot of people go through their first launch and it not get those big results that they were hoping for and then completely scrap the whole thing and like start over, build a new product even. But really, that wasn't kind of the goal of that first launch. The goal of the first launch is really just to validate the product. If you can just sell one with one offer, then your product is validated. Yay. And then you have all this data to kind of look and say, okay, maybe, I should start ramping up a little bit more. I didn't really have a lot of traffic to my sales page. What can I do to like really drive that? Or I did have a lot of traffic to my sales page, but nobody actually converted. So maybe I need to look at what's on my sales page. Like it's really just about getting in those reps so that you can refine every single time.
Exactly. Yeah. And like your audience is going to have so many different needs and trust levels and like the timeline. And I talk about this a lot in the email ecosystem training that I have just launched out there free. You can go and opt into it. Is that most people are buying over the course of like 6 months or like incubating over the course of 6 months minimally. And when somebody's coming into your space and you're saying, 5 days. You have 5 days to take action and you haven't done that like incubation stage. It's very, very difficult to push those conversions in a way that is like sustainable. So, really making sure that you are honoring your buyers' timelines, you're honoring your buyers' trust and journey, because that is what's going to make or break a launch.
Yeah, yeah. So that was our second point is map the journey, not just the date. I think a lot of emphasis, I talked about this last week with Taylor Swift's surprise open cart, gets put on open cart day, but really the real work that is going to shift your results is going to happen in the beginning of that buyer journey, right? You're not going to just open your cart and like everyone's like ready to buy like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. You're going to have to bring them through that customer journey. And customer journey is something that Rachel is an absolute expert on. So I'm going to let her kind of riff now.
Yeah, I mean, I like the analogy that we have here in our notes of saying that like a lunch is hosting a dinner party. I want you to think about you're not inviting strangers to your dinner party. Like that's awkward. There probably going to be a lot of silence and there's probably going to be just unalignment there. What you are going to do though is you're going to make friends and you're going to build that friendship, and then come that dinner party, that connection is going to be there and it's going to exist. So you really need to make sure that you're identifying what that point of discovery to like conversion is. So how are people finding you? How long does it take for them to like incubate and be ready to make that decision? These things, you're not just saying, okay, hey, I'm going to share a bunch of things with you and like eventually you're going to be ready to buy. It's super intentional in how you ramp up an audience to be ready to buy. There's a lot of that awareness journey where people have to be aware of their own problems. They have to say, yes, I actually have this problem, because they can be like, yes, we love this, support you, love what you're doing, but not acknowledge that that's something that they need in their business. And then they will probably not buy from you if they have not been problem aware. So once they're problem aware, then you have to get them to be solution aware. So they're aware of their problem. Now they need you to be, or now they need to be aware of you as the solution. So the journey that takes them there isn't like, I'm going to send you one email and you're going to be problem aware. I'm going to send you the second email and you're going to be solution aware. There's a whole amount of like levers and things that influence these steps and the stepping stones of the awareness journey.
Yeah. And I think that most people think that this process takes a lot less time than it actually does. So I'm going to give everybody a little homework and go find your last 3 clients and figure out like when did they come into your world? When did they sign up for your email list? And how many months was it from when they got on your list to when they actually decided to purchase? So I'm going to guess that it's probably longer than 5 days, which what we're trying to do when we open cart and we want people to buy in 5 days. I'm going to guess it's a little bit longer for that. Even we talk about tortoise and hare buyers. Like I feel like even hare buyers are going to need, if it's a high ticket program, a little bit more time to move from all of those. And really, hair buyers are just people that are already problem aware. They know that they're a solution and they're just trying to decide if you are the right person to help them with achieving that solution.
Yeah, nobody should be showing up to open cart not problem aware. Like, they should be far along into solution aware, and your ramp up is where those transformations happen. It's really, really important to understand that we're not just saying, "I'm gonna like, solve all of your problems at open cart," because that's not the purpose of open cart at all.
Yeah, yeah. And so like the magic really does happen when you start to build your launch around the buyer behavior because everything is going to get easier for that because you're bringing them through kind of a sequential buying journey and you're not just focused on that open cart moment.
So moving into number 3, what are we calling these? Shifts? What are we saying?
Shifts, topics, what we think.
Yeah, balancing urgency with authenticity. This is something I am on my soapbox about right now, which is the manufacturing of urgency in the online space, in just the world in general. And like, if you think back to like even client work, there's manufactured urgency where it's like, I need this done by tomorrow. And you're like, no, you don't actually. In the same sense of launches, it is important to understand that like people are smart. People are so smart when they're like, this bonus expires with a countdown clock or whatever. And you're like, I can just refresh my cookies and I can just reset this and get this bonus again if I wanted to. These are all things that you have to be able to acknowledge and like work with authentically in your launches so that you maintain the trust that you worked so hard to build. I have a very hot opinion about like the constant this price is $3,000, but today only you're going to get it for 500. And it's like, no, you're the business owner. You've dictated what that price is. You've never launched it at 3,000. You're only ever launching it at 5. So,
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel the ick about false scarcity, but this is something that I get a lot of pushback from my clients from. And I really kind of have to stand my ground and state my case because I think the online world has made it seem like you are not going to sell anything unless you put the pressure on people. And I'm like, how gross does that feel? Like starting a relationship with someone that you basically force to work.
it gives, like, car salesman energy, and you don't want that, like, at all.
Yeah, it gives car salesman energy. It gives scarcity mindset energy. And that is not the type of energy you want to be projecting during your launch. You want to be projecting abundance during your launch. Now, I'm not saying like you can't ever use that because sometimes like there really are time restrictions. I have one client who runs her program every 4 months. So if you don't sign up by this date, the cohort starts on this date, you're going to have to wait 4 months. That's real urgency. That's not manufactured urgency. I have some clients that only take a certain number of people because they want to protect the experience. Real urgency, not scarce urgency. But I also have some clients who have 50 fast action bonuses. I mean, the thing is, it does work.
Mhm.
It does work, but it doesn't feel good. It creates
It's
a
another
lot of work on the back end for us for this particular client that we do because there's like one if you buy before the webinar ends, there's one that ends at midnight, there's one that ends at 2 days, and us trying to keep track of like making sure we're delivering the bonuses to the right people based on when they signed up. It's kind of like a whole nother job, and I don't even know if it's really worth it or if it would really move people.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at just the difference between a solopreneur or a team that launches and, like, creates these production type launches, their energies are very different because each person on this side, there's, like, 20 people, and they're all managing all of these different things. The replication of that for a team of 1, a team of 3, like, ultimately will always lead to burnout. And those tactics are just not authentic to somebody who is truly doing it alone or with a small team. because the execution of that can create a very bad client experience. It's going to lead to negative retention, like, or I guess not negative retention, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where people are just having like really ick experiences with you and ultimately doesn't provide a building, like a stepping stone to lead off of. So when you see these things happening, you have to be acknowledge the context of this person has 25 people managing their launch for them. This person has 2 or 1. Like, it's just not apples and oranges, or it's not apples to apples.
Yeah, yeah. And like I'm thinking through like I can give you like 50 different tactics that are gonna improve your show up rate and I show up rate, conversion rate, all of this, but all of that takes more time, energy, capacity. So that's why we always talk about creating like a 1.0 version of your launch, a 2.0 and kind of like layering those on. And I think when you're trying to determine your strategy, are you going to do a giveaway? Because if you do that giveaway, then you're going to have to manage the giveaway to make sure that the person actually gets that. If you do a billion different bonuses, that's another thing that you're going to have to track. If you're going to create like an extra resource or workbook for your webinar, that's another thing that you're going to have to create. So I think a lot of times people like see all of these like tactics that other people are doing and they want to do them and they try to integrate them all and they end up either not executing them well or completely burning out.
Yeah, exactly, and most of the time it's both. It's exhausting. Just to reiterate, like, authentic urgency exists. If you have limited spots, you have a live program, there's a true start date, you can only take working during this season or that season, like, that's genuine. But when you're looking at these alternate tactics that have been so push in the online space and these tactics that are just like so normal, but like not okay. Like, look, I would say my own reflection there is look at like how you would react to that in your own buying experience and see if it vibes with how you just energetically work through things. Because most of the time, that's for me, I'm like, that's an instant, I'm never going to buy. And a lot of the times, the people I work with are just like me. And it's most of the time it's across the board like that. Like your client, your ideal client is very much aligned with how you are. So just take that into a little bit of a how does this feel moment.
All right. So moving into point 4 of developing your launch strategy. This kind of goes into execution strategy and the fact that launch fatigue really is not just about the workload that you've created for yourself with the type of launch that you're going to do, the tactics that you're going to deploy, but it's also mental load. And this is where project planning and having a launch dashboard. I have a launch dashboard that I have used in my $3 million launch. I absolutely love it. It helps keep the team in check. But more importantly, as project manager who is managing 14 different people and 50 different things that are going on, because we do all the tactics. Having everything in one place is so beautiful, calming. I love it. If anybody asks me a question, go look at the dashboard. Go look at the dashboard. We've got our tasks there. We've got our docs, any copy docs that we've created, any strategy docs is in the docs tab. We've got all our graphics in the graphics tabs. We've got our email marketing calendar mapped out, our social media calendar mapped out, our ad strategy mapped out. Trying to think what else we have. Every single thing that we use inside the launch is in this one spot. So I'm not having to go hunt in Google Docs or through a Slack message or on a random piece of paper to find the information that we need and just plug for Notion. I absolutely love Notion because if you've ever been in a launch, you know, things pivot and change quite often. So I love to use their sync block feature when stuff is going to be displayed in multiple different places so that if one thing changes in one spot, it automatically gets changed in the other spots as well.
Yeah, I will say I have ran launches without Jess and I have run launches with Jess. And I will forever and always choose the with Jess option because it is so just it makes my brain happy to see all of these various components working. And then her Notion dashboards and everything, they're just, it's like somebody takes this and just pulls it out of my brain and puts it in there. So it is so important because launches get chaotic. And especially I will speak to the people who are writing their own copy, setting up their own tech, doing all of those components alone or with one other person. It's not just the writing, it's not just the implementing and executing. It is the planning, it is the, making the shifts across the board, remembering, oh, we're not doing this anymore, we're doing that now. All of those things, the mental labor as well as the actual execution of a launch really do stack up. It's easy when I wouldn't say it's easy, but like it's a system when there's a 10 plus person launch. When it's just you have to say, okay, I am the copywriter today and I'm checking the boxes on my tasks. I'm moving my assigned dates and I'm doing all of this. Okay, now I'm the project manager and I'm doing this. Like it's so much harder when it's just the smaller set of two people. But that's what makes the Notion dashboard of the dashboard so much more important.
And then going back to our launches building on top of themselves, when you have your entire launch dashboard with every single thing you did, wrote, mapped out, thought in one spot, it's so easy to kind of go back and continue to build on your launch and improve your launch because you're not having to. I feel like a lot of people start from scratch every single time because they can't find their stuff. It's not in front of them. But when you go to plan your next launch, if you can pull up your launch dashboard that has like, okay, these are when I send all the emails. This is what I put in the emails. This is when I started it.
Mhm.
This email
This was
didn't
the
work.
open rate.
This
It
email didn't
converted.
work. So I need to change this out. Like it makes everything so much better. And that is how that you're going to continuously improve your launch after launch after launch is doing a really good audit, debrief, keeping records of what you did last time so that you can tweak, refine, and improve for the next time.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we'll link the audit episode that we've done where we talk about like the core KPIs that are important to reflecting back on past launches and how to do that. Like we'll make sure that that's in the show notes. But yeah, I think that that's like this is make or break a launch, like 100%.
I
I
have
can't.
tried. Okay, so like I've done so many launches at this time, and for like some of my smaller launch, like client launches, I'm like, I don't need to go and do all this. Like I know step by step, I can do this in my sleep of everything we need to do, and then I'll get like halfway to the end, and I'll be like, what is going on? Did we do this? Did we do that? And I'll have to go back and like create the whole launch plan again so that I can like start from scratch. So like even me, who's probably done, I don't know, a lot 60 launches at this point. I've launched a lot, and believe me, I know in my head every single step that needs to happen, but it still is very beneficial to make sure that it's out there, project plans, and it's just so much more peaceful. Peaceful, profitable
Totally.
launches. That's what we're helping you do.
Yes. So let's go ahead and just like do a quick summary of everything that we covered here. So, no one size fits all launch. That is not a thing. There are so many nuances and just various uniqueness to your own business that won't necessarily fit into taking somebody's launch strategy and executing it on your own. So, take it, feel what resonates, align it with what your audience is, and then execute it in that sense. The second one is always map to the customer journey. Don't just slap dates on a calendar and saying we're launching and we're going and all of that. Like if you do that, you're probably not going to get a lot of conversion. So really making sure you're aligned with the awareness journey, with the buyer journey of your own people, and making sure that it fits into those pieces is key. Second, or I guess third, is balancing urgency with authenticity. We are all living in these crazy, high urgency, manipulative marketing sales tactics. Like we all feel it. Don't implement it just because you think it's going to do something extra for your launch.
Yeah. And I think make sure, just to add this, is not just urgency, but make sure every single launch tactic that you employ feels aligned with you. Because if it doesn't, it's not going to show. I cannot, it's because if it doesn't, it's going to show. I cannot tell you how many, I've been on a lot of webinars I've been on, and like when you get to the pitch part, if that person is trying to follow like a guru's pitch, it just comes off so awkward. So you really have to find a way to present your product in a way that feels aligned with you. I can go into how to do that, but
That's another
that'll be for
episode.
another episode. But just make sure that all of your tactics that you employ feel aligned with both your values and your actual capacity, you're going to run into people.
Totally. And then lastly is do yourself a favor and reduce the mental load by getting some type of project management launch dashboard that you can see launch over launch. You can see everything in one place. Make an external brain for your launch because our businesses are not our entire lives. We have personal life. We got things we got to think about for dinner every single night. We have all of the plans on the weekends. Like, don't try to store more in here than necessary. Put it out on the thing, put it out on the dashboard and make sure that it is an external brain that you can then keep track of and execute and then use it for your next launch.
Yep. And I think most importantly, it's keep that experimenter's mindset and really look at each launch where you're not just building a quick cash injection for your business. You're really building an asset that's going to perform over and over and over for you. Sure, you might have to pivot, tweak as buyer behaviors shift and things evolve, but overall the core of it is something that you're going to be able to reuse and recycle. I almost like reduce, reuse, recycle. We're being very sustainable with our launches. So we want you to tell us, get in our DMs and tell us what launch tactic or launch model has felt most aligned with you. What is your favorite way to launch? And if you do not love to launch yet, then we want to hear from you. What are you going to experiment with trying on next? If you did a webinar and you hated every second of your life, I know Rachel did a challenge one time. She's like, I am never doing that again. Never doing that again. Let us know what you're going to experiment with next week. Let us know what you're going to experiment with in our DMs. We're at Deeply Rooted Business on Instagram and I think TikTok now. And come back next week. We're going to continue our launch series. And if today gave you any new insights to launching in a less stressed way, or you think that this would be helpful, be sure to share it with your business bestie. Follow us wherever you listen so you don't miss an episode. And please, please, please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. It helps our podcast grow. And until next week, we are rooting for you.